I think without any further ado, we'll start. And just to say a really warm welcome to everybody that's joined the call. It's fantastic to see so many names on the list, and really appreciate your engagement with it. I'm sure it's going to be a fascinating webinar. We're going to start with a presentation, and then there'll be time for questions and answers to those that are presenting. But if you want to write your questions in the chat box during the call, we'll just refer back to them at the end. So if you want to write your questions at any time, that's fine. Okay, so just to say that today I'm very happy to welcome our grantees from Pakistan. In fact, there's two grantees who are working on similar projects working together. VSO Pakistan has been a grantee of AmplifyChange since 2016, must be one of our first network grantees, and they've subsequently received a renewal of that grant. And Rozan was always part of that project, if I'm not much mistaken, and they've subsequently applied in their own right and received funding as of earlier this year. My name's Liz Tremlett. I'm the Grant Support Team Manager here at AmplifyChange, and I'm delighted to be moderating the discussion today. So just a couple of points to mention: that we're going to be recording the webinar today. So all of the questions that will be typed in the chat box will be read out, so that for the benefit of the recording. And the recording will be available subsequently on the AmplifyChange website. So if you do have any difficulties with connectivity, please know that you should be able to find it there, perhaps not immediately, but after a few days. I've said that the session is a 30-minute presentation followed by questions and answers, which you can put your questions in the chat box. Thank you. Okay, this is part of a series of webinars that AmplifyChange is running, each on a specific topic, and there's some more going to be coming in the future. So we'll be hopefully watch out for further announcements of future webinars going through the rest of the year. Okay, so firstly, I'd like to introduce Khurshid Khan from VSO, and secondly, Safid Said from Rozan. And I'm going to let you go through and talk about your project in detail. I think, yeah, thank you very much indeed.
Thank you, Liz. And it's really a pleasure to be here. It's Khurshid here, and I'm with the colleague. I'm from VSO. I'm working with VSO as a senior. And here is Safi. Yeah.
Yes, Safi. I'm working as senior manager, and I head the police program at Rozan.
So we hear a little bit, first of all, regarding this project. That's is already Liz mentioned that we have this partnership with SE and then further with Rozan. That's the project name is indicated that preventing gender-based violence through democratic policing in Pakistan. And our presentation structure will be a little bit that first we have to introduce VSO, which already did some part, and of course the Rozan, but a little bit about the VSO itself as an organization. Then of course it's the project aim and objective, we have to touch upon that one, and relevant amplify change indicators, which for example for the tracking of progress for change in policies and laws. And of course, there will be also supported with a case study. And of course, that case study, we will look how effective role of the civil society for police reforms. So it will itself reflect how it works there. And as the end is mentioned that we have a question answer session. So if you have any questions, you can put on that one. So the chat box will have to be answered in that way. Okay, so coming to the introduction of Pakistan and Rozan. Voluntary Service Overseas is a leading IA NGO. It's working currently is about 23 countries, and of course working with over 500 partners we have at the moment. And of course that is local organizations and even academia and other government counterparts. We also partner, of course, we fight for poverty through the power of volunteering. That is our model. And sharing skill and experience in inclusive education, healthy communities, and resilience livelihood. Yeah, Rozan, yeah.
Welcome from my side as well. Rozan is basically a national NGO working in Pakistan since 1998, and we have been working on the issues of gender-based violence, violence at large, violence against children, and other vulnerable groups. We also work on the emotional health aspect of the humanity. As far as the violence is concerned, in order to address this issue, we have been working with the police since 1999. So it's been 20 years that Rozan has been working with the police at the police station level, and we are also capacitating the instructors of police at their police training schools and colleges. And then the policy part, Rozan is working for police reforms for the last almost 10 years now. And this presentation would tell you more about that.
Okay, thank you, Sophie. And of course, that's the partnership between VSO and Rozan to implement that project. And of course, for that one is the network grant funding from AmplifyChange that is Liz already mentioned, that is from 2016 to 2018. But of course, that was the extension still is going on for these projects. And that, of course, to further scale up it for a larger impact. VSO, of course, supporting Rozan, and of course, that's a national organization. We have a close collaboration and partnership for that one. And of course, VSO is an international organization also building the capacity of Rozan. And for that one, we also have provided that, for example, VSO also supported Rozan in provision of 2 international volunteers from time to time to them in supporting. Of course, without that, we also provided some, this project is built in the national volunteers. And of course, Rozan also have their own volunteers for that one. And of course, they're to strengthen further their ability in Pakistan. And of course, that is Pakistan Forum for Democratic Police Networks, which is established across different provinces. Coming to the project aim and objective, I will just quickly touch upon on that one, just for the clarity of those who maybe just further they will understand the whole presentations. So, of course, the first objective was to increase the ability of police effectively reform their roles and accountable to the protecting girls, women, men, and boys who face GBV. If you look in that, there is some numbers which 3,550. That is basically the impact. Directly, we have reached its output level yet, and of course, some indirectly. That is, we also gave some of the information which can be at the moment how much we have reached and scale at the moment in Pakistan. Objectives, coming to the specific objectives, like of course to further build the capacity in profile and scale of PFDP, that is Pakistan Forum for Democratic Police, that's the abbreviation of that one. A civil network and memberships at the project. If you look the numbers that in inception's time, the number was 8 when the project was started. So the total number was, now the membership reached 180. So that's a big achievement even for this project also. The second objective, that's strongly educate for the robust governance and operation of the police. And of course, the third one, that is the GBV to reduce the risk, increase reporting, increase access to justice, sexual and reproductive health. And of course, the services for victims against the rights and improve police prevention and response. Yeah. So that was a little bit objective on that one. Now, maybe Safi will lead on that one. What's the actual practical implementation of the field and more detail about that projects, and of course, some more about how the case studies come and the whole tools and procedures. Yeah.
Well, first of all, I would like to thank VSO, our partner organization, and then the host organization, AmplifyChange, for arranging this webinar and letting us share our experiences with different other stakeholders who are sitting around the world. Well, this is basically a network strengthening grant, and it's a civil society network that Rozan has strengthened with the help of AmplifyChange and in partnership with VSO. So we have established and strengthened 3 chapters under this initiative, and these 3 initiative chapters are based in 2 big provinces of Pakistan, or you may call them states. So one is Sindh. We have 40 members in Sindh, and 40 also in Punjab. And through this number, we are actually covering the entire provinces. And then at the national level, at the federal level, we have this chapter in the federal capital, Islamabad, and there we have 35 members belonging to different segments of life. These member organizations include national non-governmental organizations, international non-governmental organizations, academia, lawyers. There are some trade union representation as well. And then we have the representation of religious minorities in these networks, and we have different religions. So we are being represented by Christians. We are being represented by Christians, Hindus, Sikhs, Muslim minorities, minority sects as well. Then we have a representation of transgender community, transgender men and transgender women. We have also engaged in this network the people living with disabilities. So this is a very wide range of member organizations who have joined us in this cause, and we thank them all for their support. Well, moving ahead, let me very briefly share with you the project indicators that we have set in collaboration with our host organizations. Well, the one of the objective is to do advocacy for the sake of police reforms, and the reforms which should be citizen centric and gender sensitive, so that it can address the issue of SRHR and human rights, and also specifically the gender based violence. So for that purpose, what we do is that we, in collaboration with our member organizations, or plan and implement advocacy campaigns in which we engage with the senior leadership of the police officers working at police station level, and also, and most importantly, the legislators, both from the treasury and the opposition benches. So this is how we go about this. The member organization basically plan these campaigns on their own. What we do is that we build their capacity on the issues that we work on. For example, the issue of police reforms. Police is a very complex phenomena, specifically in our country, and it's been a topic of debate for the last 70 years. And unfortunately, we have not been able to see the required reforms in the institution. It's a very complex thing. Our politics is connected with the police, so it is about making the general public as well as the civil society understand the different complexities attached to this issue of police reform. So we build their capacity on this. We build their capacity on the laws which are governing the police in the country. And since we are connected with different provinces, so each province has a different police law. So we build their capacity accordingly. Then we also build their capacity on the issues of gender-based violence and SRHR, so that they can connect the issues of police reforms and the ground plight of the vulnerable groups. For the purpose, we have been engaging with 85 member organizations, 50 in Sindh, and then you can see 15 in the national chapter, and then 20 in Punjab. These are the active members who are contributing to the advocacy campaigns. And through the advocacy campaign, we have raised up to almost 13,716 people from different walks of life. Well, apart from this campaign, or you can say as a part of this campaign as well, we have raised to the legislators, as I mentioned earlier, from the provincial and the national assembly, who are basically the legislators. Well, now I would like to share with you very briefly the success or the achievement that this network has done so far. Before going into that, we say that there are multiple factors which influence public policies. You can see a list over here: public opinion, economic conditions, scientific discoveries, technological change, interest groups, NGOs, lobbying, and political activities. So we have picked up a few of them for our initiative in Pakistan. We are working at three levels. Number one is grassroots level, and we reach to grassroots level through the civil society organizations like NGOs, international NGOs, community-based organizations, and we aware the masses on this particular issue which we are working on, which is police reforms and the plight of the vulnerable groups, the issue of gender-based violence. What we do is that we try to create the demand from the ground so that the legislators and the police management can come up to that to the expectations of the general public. Then there is the level of police. We directly engage with the police through this network. We carry out certain researches. We carry out seminars and different other community-based activities. For example, walks, media engagement, so that the police management can be engaged for the purpose of police reform, where we raise our demand. We have basically developed a civil society charter for police reforms, which we present through this network. And then the last level is of the politicians, the legislators. Ultimately, the policy and the laws have to come from them. So we engage them, we educate them, we lobby for the police reforms, and then we work with them. We actually also support them in making new laws and in the implementation of the laws. Well, these are the 8 steps that we have taken for under this initiative in collaboration with VSO and AmplifyChange. Well, the point number 1 was to get the people together. As Mr. Khurshid shared a while ago, that in the start there were only 8 member organizations which established this network. So we invited more people, more like-minded civil society organizations, individuals, and other networks, so that we can work together for this purpose. And then we developed a joint objective, as shared with you earlier, so that everyone is on the same page and we can work for the same cause. The step number 3 was getting the facts. Well, for that purpose, we not only did primary research, we carried out research from this platform, but we also did a lot of literature review so that we can collect the information, compile it, assess it, analyze it, and present it to the concerned stakeholders, including the civil society, the police management, and the legislators. So this was the step number 3. Step number 4 was decide who you are going to influence, because this is very important. We have scarcity of resources and time, so we cannot go to each and every concerned person or each and every politician randomly. So we literally sat together on this network and decided who we are going to influence. So through that process, as per the need of each province, we identified the concerned influencers and we contacted them, which included the senators, the member of National Assembly, the members of Provincial Assembly, as well as the local government representatives. Well, what we wanted them to do, what we wanted from them, it was, we have 3-4 major demands from them. Number 1, please ensure that the police is operationally autonomous. In Pakistan, there is a lot of political interference in the police, so the institution cannot work independently, which is a very big issue over here. Then the accountability mechanism of the institution is not very strong, rather it is missing at some levels. So this is the second thing which we are demanding for. Then this gender sensitivity. We actually educate them on the issues of gender-based violence, and then the financial and technical independence of the institution so that they can work effectively. Then we work the step number, the third last step is building alliance and coalition. So we work with other networks as well. For example, networks of traders, network of working on the child rights. So we work on that. So the second last step was to have a multi-sector, a multi-pronged strategy to engage with them. And then finally, the last step is to implement and review your strategy so that you can improve your work. So this is how we worked on it. So, the case study is that how the civil society organizations were able to manage to achieve some in the province of Sindh. Well, in Sindh, the government of Sindh introduced a new police law in earlier this year. And the police law was not actually matching the aspirations of the people. So what we did was that we actually carried out a research, literature review, and we did a lot of the stuff which helped the opposition members of the assembly to engage with the government members of the assembly so that they can improve the law. And we also directly meetings with the Minister of Law and the Leader of the House and some other very influential members from the government so that we can share our demands with them. So it was one of its kind activity. In the past, the police reform and the legislation with regard to police has been the subject of the government only. There was no consultations with the civil society in the past, but through this network we were able to got in touch with the members from the treasury as well as the opposition benches. So as I shared earlier, we shared with them our different researches, our analysis with regard to the past laws and as well as the new laws. We shared the comparisons between the two laws, the loophole which were there. So there was a lot of evidence for the opposition parties so that they can do lobbying and their objections. They raised their objections on that, and the government was then ultimately. I would be sharing a small model with you where the government will actually listen to them, and the many of our demands were actually incorporated in the new law. This is the model at Rozan and its partner organization VSO, and along with all the forum members, we assessed the new law as well as the previous law and drafted our recommendations. We went to the provincial legislature with our recommendations, and we, along with other member organizations, played the role of a pressure group so that they listen to us and incorporate our recommendations into it. Furthermore, the legislators, with the technical support of the PFDP, this network, they went to the provincial governor. Governor is the authority which ultimately signs a law. So they met with the governor along with all those objections and suggestions which we shared with the politicians, and the governor returned that law. Instead of signing the law, the governor returned the law to the provincial assembly so that further debate can be made on it and the amendments can be incorporated. And the amendments, not all, but some of the amendments were actually made after the intervention of the governor. So this is one of the success which we very happily share with others as well. But these are the activities which we carry out under this network, under this initiative. We regularly meet every quarter so that we can set the agenda, we can discuss the issues of police reforms in the country, and then we can set our strategies to address the issues. We do a lot of capacity building of the forum members. We organize different seminars in which we invite panelists from the government, from the opposition, from the police, and then we engage through them with the civil society. We organize walks, press conference, and then you can see the other activities as well, which include theater campaigns and other stuff as well. Well, so far we have contacted through this initiative over 100 influencers, which include ministers and other politicians. We also got in touch with the media. Media is really important so that we can educate them in order to communicate the message, get the message across to the masses through the media. Well, success during the policy influencing and tracking process in Sindh, the amendments were made. As I said, the second achievement that our network did was that since the very start, from the very first year of this initiative, it's been 3 years from now, that we have been demanding for establishing human rights cells in each district of the province. So and we shared this demand through different communication material, through letters, through seminars, walks, and other initiatives. Ultimately, earlier this year, the government of Sindh has actually notified the human rights cells would be established in the province of Sindh to address the issues of vulnerable groups. Secondly, we have been able to motivate and mobilize the legislators who are now actually raising questions based on the information provided by us in the assembly, and we have the proof of this, and we'll be sharing this in the report as well, that the questions and the information that we provided to them is now being asked at the floor of the assembly, which is again a big success, because police reform hasn't been discussed in this way earlier. Well, there were quite a few challenges. Lack of political will. The ruling political parties actually manipulate and use the police for their own benefits. So it is always a challenge to influence them. But as I shared earlier, with the help of civil society organizations, which are spread across the country, and with the help of the opposition parties of the assembly, we've been able to make a few achievements. But mitigation strategy was to be regularly in touch with them, keep on sharing your message through different medium, through social media, mainstream media, hard printed material, through emails, through telephone, through WhatsApp groups. So we have also made a Facebook page as well for the purpose. So it's a very hectic but a continuous process which you have to go through. A lack of legislators and civil society's understanding on the issue. As I said, police reform hasn't been discussed in this way earlier. So it is our role as the network, to educate the people so that more and more people can understand and join their voices with us. Again, media and seminars and sessions with the youth and other advocacy techniques were used for that purpose. Media was engaged. Engagement of media, again, media has their own priorities, but to keep them on this is again some sort of a challenge which we successfully managed. So I'm moving to the next slide, considering the time constraint. Well, but it is very important to understand how we track our success. How can we say that we have actually made these achievements? Well, whenever we do capacity building sessions, events, we always carry out pre and post test or pre and post training assessments, which help us. We regularly manage to maintain meeting minutes, meeting logs, and then the commitments made by the policymakers. We document it. We try to engage with the media. We release press briefings, press releases. So these are the kind of things, pictures, videos, and reports are the very typical tools which we use to track our progress. But lesson learned is empower the forum members. Many of the activities, I would rather say 90% of the activities were actually carried out by the member organizations on their own. Rozan's or the VSO's role was to facilitate them, was to capacitate them to organize those activities. We were not there on the forefront. Even the meeting plan and the agenda is set by the member organizations, so that they can utilize their potential and their connections at the ground level and can carry out the advocacy campaigns. Another lesson learned is that you do evidence collection and research for the purpose. So we do research ourselves, and we do take benefit from the researches which have been carried out earlier in the past. Regular follow-up with the legislators is a must, if you want to make them push them for police reform, because they have their own agenda and priority. Well, there are a few pictures which we would like to share with you. There are very few. This is a police officer who is an ally of this network for police reforms. And she talks very well on the issues of gender-based violence and empowerment of women. And she is talking with the audience in a seminar. Well, the next picture is of it's of a theater performance. It's relatively easy to communicate your message in a limited time through a theater performance. So in this theater performance, we presented the issues of policing as well as the challenges which are faced by women and other vulnerable groups and minorities in the country, and the role of the police and the legislators to solve those problems. So it was very well communicated by this. And there is another seminar in which we can see senior police officers, retired police officers, lawyers. They are part of this seminar, and we are actually getting the message across to the civil society through the seminar. This is a walk which our member organization organized in one of the districts of Sindh, in order to raise awareness of the general public on the issues of police and other issues relevant to this topic. Another picture of the walk. Well, these are the women members of Provincial Assembly, which we got in touch with in the province of Punjab, and they belong to different parties. So we're not just focusing on one party, we're actually trying to make this a priority policy agenda of multi-party, so that this agenda can be raised jointly on the floor of the Assembly. Well, last picture is of a seminar. This is basically a meeting of the forum. You can see the forum members sitting here, and it was basically a study circle in which we invited politicians from all 4 provinces of Pakistan, and there was a speaker who was the ex-chief of police of the country. So he shared his experiences. So we this organized this study circle for the forum members so that they can have more insight on the issue, and then they can plan their advocacy campaigns accordingly. And the more you understand the issue, the better you plan your things and run your activities accordingly. So, for your interest, I would like to share that many politicians who are so-called seasoned politicians, they actually do not know why police is performing below par, what are the issues of the police in the country, and how those challenges and issues can be addressed. So this forum has been really, really successful in this, and we have received quite a few acknowledgement by the politicians themselves, where they say that we are learning a lot by getting in touch with this forum. They don't not only become our voice in the assembly, but they also learn a lot from us, from this network basically. And I give full credit to the forum members who are connected with this cause of police reforms in the country, and they are willing to go to any extent to address this issue. We believe that policing is a development issue. If there is no law and order, or the poor safety and security in a country, no economic activity can be held in that country. So if we want to empower ourselves economically, socially, and if we want to attain our basic human rights, we need to have a police which is gender sensitive, which is democratically run, which is operationally autonomous, and which is financially independent, so that they can meet the aspirations of the general public. So this is all from our side. We have actually a lot to share, but the time is limited, so we are closing here. Now we'll be welcoming your questions on it.
Guys, the forum is open. If you have any questions, so please ask your questions, and we will try to respond to the questions. Yeah.
Okay, we're just waiting a few minutes, and hopefully some questions will pop into the chat box. Thank you both very much for a very thorough presentation, and I hope you didn't.
Liz, can you hear us?
Yes, can you hear me? Can you hear me okay?
Well, the audience can ask questions by writing the questions in the chat box. Yeah. We are available to ask. Well, you're asking about the policy change tracking framework. We shared with you that there is a lot of room in the country for policy change. How we track the changes is that first we do researches. We identify the loopholes and the shortcomings of the present law, and then we draft recommendations on that. And the recommendations are then shared with the concerned stakeholders, including the civil society as well as the politicians. For the civil society, how we track change, whether they are learning from their interaction with us or not, what we do is that we arrange capacity building sessions. And for the capacity building sessions, we very frequently gauge their level of knowledge, so that we can understand whether they have gained something from the capacity building sessions or not. Once their capacity is built, we get in touch with the politicians, and then we raise our demands to them, so that they can work on it. They can consult with other politicians as well. We can see very easily see what was there before the advocacy campaign and this initiative, and what is there after the campaign. I gave you the example of this sin police law. So there were a few things which we objected on that law. The objections were actually communicated to the concerned politician, to the governor, and then we saw the change. So the change itself is an evidence that the forum was able to make some change.
Can you hear me now, Khurshid?
Ms. Rukia Sayar asked, what's the impact on individuals, specifically the women? As I shared, the Sindh government has now established human rights cells in the province. When the human rights cells are established, the staff is there to receive the complaint from the vulnerable groups and other people as well. So people are actually directly getting benefit from this. Plus, when we talk about the issues of police with regard to the women police or the women complainants, when we educate the women politicians of the assembly, they are actually very keenly raising those questions in the assembly, and the concerned ministers are being held accountable against that. So this is the process which will definitely take time, but the change is there. The link can be seen on the ground as well. There is another question by Nondo. How the ongoing learning were documented and used to shape your next actions in the process? Well, we documented the entire first phase of this initiative, and we uploaded the reports on the website of the forum, which is Pakistan Forum for Democratic Policing. We have the website with the same name, so you can go there. You can see those reports. Those are very well documented with evidence. How are you? Mata asks, how were you able to have the buy-in of the government, since most of the police forces are normally greatly influenced by the government? Well, as I said, it's been a challenge. I hear this is the challenge part as well. But a continuous effort, a continuous persistent approach make you find some like-minded people, pro-change people. There are people who are ready for change in every segment of life, though their number could be less. So we were able to find those members. They are now working on it, and we are positive that we'll be able to increase this number in the future. There is another question by Morufa. Please, could you please talk or show the slide? The slide. Sorry, I lost that question. I think. Just a moment. A slide indicating the activities put in place, seminar media. Well, definitely I can go back to that slide very quickly. Well, these are the pictures of the slide, and the activities are, these are the, just a moment. These are the activities, so you can have a look at it. Please, could you please talk more? This is done. On top of it, how you monitor the impact on individuals. Well, it is another challenge. In Pakistan, to have the exact data has always been a challenge, and it is not basically the mandate or scope of this network to monitor the change at the very individual level. But still, what we are doing is that we are getting in touch with the human rights cells, gender crime cells in the provinces, and we are seeking data from them. And we can see that people are coming in more number to record their cases, to lodge their complaints. How do you have a police officer who also is a perpetrator change? Well, change his mind on VVV. Yeah, we cannot be sure that who is the perpetrator and who is not. But still, we believe that people do change. We need to communicate our message in a way which appeals them and is effective enough. So our role is to be as effective, as comprehensive as we can. So we do this, and then we have another study which is from another initiative, and we can actually see the change at the individual level, the police officers. The documentation of advocacy campaigns uploaded at the website forum. Yeah, we have already shared. Well, hello, thank you so much for the 81, Chin. How long did it take you to have a complete new policy developed? We cannot be very sure. Policy development, policy making is not in our hands, not in our control. But what we can do is that to be very persistent on raising our demands for the change, for the policy change. What we have done is that we have developed a whole new law for sin police in the past, so that the police can take benefit of it and the government can take benefit of it. So we are working on it, but the time, how much time it can take, it can vary. It can be 1 year or a year or more. So actually, I'm unable to answer this question very precisely. The police. Another question by Margaret is: police seems to be an obstacle in prevention of GBV. How did you address an ethical issue? Well, apart from this initiative, Rozan has also already developed a few training manuals on the issue of gender-based violence and how to be effectively dealing with those issues. So the training manual is also there, but these are there are very structural issues of the police. Training is one part. We definitely work on the part of training, but overall structural reform, legislative reforms is what we require. We are working on it. We can see that there is change. In the past there was no independent commission in the province to hold the police accountable on their practices. But now, after the introduction of new law, there is a commission, safety commission, to have an eye on the institutions, of which that can also be used to see whether the police officer are ethical or unethical in their practices. Sinila is asking, hello, well, have you monitored how police are handling the GBB reporting after the capacity building training? Well, let me be very clear on this, and I would like you to understand this as we are not directly training the police under this initiative. We are actually training the civil society organizations so that they can come up, they can stand and ask for police reform. In the past, there has been no efforts as at all, any there was no joint effort for this, for the sake of police reform, to address the issues of gender-based violence. So now we have this platform. The platform is capacitated. So we are now working through this platform to hold the politicians and the police management accountable. Yes, training is one of the parts. We are asking for better quality of training, better quality of training. So this is how we are trying to address the issues of police training and police capacity through this network. Nander asks, could you explain more about financial independence? Is your course to adapt with? Well, what I would like to share that people in our country actually do not understand the financial needs of the police. They are actually demanding a lot from the police, but they do not understand whether the police is financially equipped to address their issues, to meet their expectations. Police is not. What we are doing here is that we are disseminating this information in the civil society, in the politicians, in the police management, that the current financials which are being provided to the police are not sufficient enough. We are sharing the numbers. We are sharing the research reports conducted by a few government institutions, which clearly say that the financial requirements of police are not being met. That is why they are into corruption. They are indulged in financial corruption. They ask for money, they ask for bribe in the name of having those facilities for the general public. So the government, so the state is responsible to increase the financial resources. This is what we are doing actually. This is what we mean by financial independence. That for the routine operations, daily functions of the police should have sufficient funds so that they can effectively address each and every case that they deal with. Glory is asking, do you have a gender desk at the police stations level? Well, and the other question is, how does those complaint lodged be tracked? Well, in Pakistan, we do not have gender cells with gender desks at each police station, but making. This is one of our demands. The Society Charter of Demand has this demand in the list of demands that please do have a gender desk where the issues of gender-based violence can be addressed very specifically with special focus on them. So this is what we are advocating for. I think I've tried to answer all these questions. If you need any further clarity or if you have any other questions, please do feel free to ask.
Thank you to the presenters. I will just wait a second and see if there's any more questions coming through. Can you hear me okay, Khursid Sabi? Can anyone?
I think some people are writing, so let's wait for them. Yeah.
Well, Margaret, this rickshaw campaign was we use this rickshaw. Rickshaw is one of the very frequently used commute source of commute within the city, basically. So we used this rickshaws to raise awareness on the issue of gender-based violence, on the laws which have been enacted to address the issues of gender-based violence, and also to disseminate the civil society charter for police reform. So these demands and these laws and these rights were basically pasted behind the rickshaws, and for that purpose, the rickshaw drivers were also oriented on them, so that if a commuter asks them about the poster, he or she can explain that to the passenger. So the rickshaw campaign, since rickshaws are all over the city, So it was a cheaper mode of disseminating the information across the city.
Okay, well that's fantastic. I'm going to continue talking. I'm not sure if the other presenters can hear me, but just wanted to say thank you
Well,
very much.
Helena is tapping, and let's see what
Can
she is going to ask. How do you manage government changes? Well, it's it's a very interesting question. Actually, we what we try to do is that we do not focus on whose party's government is this. We actually focus on our demands. So no matter which government is this, our demand remain the same, and we carry on with our demands. Although with the change of government, there is always a change of priorities and change of attitude of as well. So this is what we face. The challenge is always there, but we've been lucky in the past that for the last 5 years, the government wasn't changed before the actual term completion. So, but you're very right. The change of government as well as the change of police management in Pakistan, this is another huge issue. The management of the police is changed very frequently. We build our rapport with one of the officers, and then suddenly he or she is changed, and then we again start the work from the scratch with the other police officer, and the work carries on like this. You're welcome. Well, it's a very important question, Fatmata. Well, yes, we do try to use this tool as well. But since we are not working directly with the victims, or what we call them the survivors of gender-based violence, so that is why we are not very regularly getting in touch with them. But definitely, wherever possible, we do try to manage this. Well, the voice is not good, Margaret said. So can you people hear us? Well, Liz has asked something. They say that uh, just to say that if you are able to change the minds of one leader and they move, they will take the new attitude with them. Well, definitely. This is another positive side of it. If I take it positively, that if we give them a message to a politician or a police leader, he or she is transferred, or he or she is moved, she'll definitely be taking this message ahead. This is the positive side of it. But definitely, for the purpose of policy change, we need sustainability, we need consistency. Nender and Liz are typing something. Let's see.
No questions, you can.
Just two more questions from Liz.
No, that's suggested.
Okay. All right. Yeah, we have 4 or 5 minutes more, so we can take a couple of more questions. Well, it's a very important question. The campaign was to for example, the campaign was to establish the human rights cells in the first place. There was no, there are two or three gender crime cells in the entire province. So the campaign was one of the major demands of the campaign was to establish the human rights cell. The cells have been established. So this itself is success and achievement. Now the other step is how effective those cells are. Now this is our other role. What we'll be doing in the future would definitely be to gauge the gauge the effectiveness of the cells. For that purpose, we have already had a meeting with one of the in charges heads of the cell, one of the cells. So this is what we'll be doing in the future as well. Well, the last question we will be taking the recommendations for future programming. Well, recommendation number one is be consistent, be rigorous. Do not stop this work here. It's a huge uphill task. So we need to carry on with our work. We need to tap in the opportunities that we have. We need to keep finding out the like-minded people in the government, in the police. So this is what we have to do. Secondly, we have to keep the civil society organization on move. We have to keep them engaged and motivated so that they keep on asking these questions. They keep on asking for police reform. If we stop this voice, the momentum has to go on. The momentum has to build further so that the politicians can understand that this is something which is a core demand by the general public. It is not something which is there just because of a donor. So we need to carry on with this. We need to bring along more and more people. We need to work with the youth so that they can be our ambassadors for change. We have to go on with this, and there can be so many other interventions that we need to design. In this project specifically, we are not working for the capacity building of the politicians. In the future, what we are proposing and what we are designing and what we wish is to work directly with the legislators so that their capacities can be built. At the moment, we are working on the capacity building of the civil society, the member organizations of this network, the 180 member organizations, so that they can come up and ask for policy reform. On the other side, what we have learned is that the politicians are also lacking in their capacity. We need to get in touch with them as well, plus the media. So there are a lot of things which we are proposing for the future and which we are thinking that could be of much use if we work on that.
Yeah, thank you for that. Maybe that's the question. If you have any further questions, you can send us. You can even send through reply through email on that one. And of course, the recordings, one is that the recording is already there, so you will all get the recording. I think Liz will share with you. So that's all from our sides, and thank you all for your listening us, and we meet again. So, yeah,
thank you very much from Rozan and from Pakistan that you were working with us, that you work with us, and we'll be happy to know more recommendations and suggestions to improve our work. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, everyone. I've put the link to where we post the webinars on our website there for those that want to catch it later.